place is amazing.
Yeah, there's a big one there
Yeah, there's a couple of really large.
what is that, those huge ones? What do they call?
The big vines here are going to be two species. They're going to be Oriental bittersweet.
Okay. Super bad.
Or wild grape. Other properties you can have fairly large porcelain berry. Porcelain berry is new as an invasive, so it's still spreading, so it hasn't gotten huge yet.
Porcelain what? Berry.
Porcelain berry.
Okay.
We were called in on this property to take out large vines because you'll see some of the trees literally had so much vine on them that the biomass up above them was crushing the tree, and the thought was it would create a safety hazard later on. It also pulls the canopy of the tree down and stops it from growing properly. So we were asked to go in, and we wound up chainsawing through a lot of them. There's plenty of smaller ones that we can sort of demonstrate how you would manage vines at, but a lot of our work here was originally with a chainsaw. Most homeowners probably aren't going to find that. It takes more than a decade for the vines to get massive. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, to the extent that it was jungle-esque, so to speak. Yep.
Tim, you mentioned the fact that when a tree falls due to vines, what it does is create a pocket of sun that just results in invasive.
Right, so...
Did you see those right there?
Yeah, so the vines often prevent the top of the tree from absorbing enough sunlight, so the branches die. It weakens the tree. When the tree falls over, a lot of times what happens afterwards is the vines don't die. So you'll find in areas with a lot of forest, you'll see something sort of like this, where you can see these pooled vines on the forest floor. Sometimes that means that several trees have been killed by a large vine. And each time it's climbed up onto a new tree and killed it. So cutting off the vine's ability to reach the canopy where it receives sunlight really hurts it.
So it's trying to go up so it can get the sun up there.
Yes, it's trying to get up to the top of the canopy so that it can have basically its solar cells in the sun. If it doesn't have that, it's weakened significantly. So by cutting the vines at the ground, especially if you do it during the time of year when it's got its leaves up top and it's fully active, it really hampers it. Even if you cut it in the winter, you force it to restart growing up. It can do that fairly fast sometimes because it has a large root system and energy stores in place, but it still has to regrow its entire structure. This is actually a pretty good place to start, I think.
Yeah, there's actually some here, and then if you look at this tree,
yeah,
the top's already half dead and the vine is in the back.
Yeah, so... Yeah. We recommend that landowners go out in the winter for a couple of reasons. One of them is it's easier to access the stuff then. Another is honestly just that it's much less... Sorry, mask adjustment.
I know. You're supposed to put it way on the tip of your nose. I think
Yeah.
I'd fall over if I did that. I don't think I'd be able to see.
So,
Yeah, I can't see. The steam is like...
So, when you cut vines, you're not just trying to kill the vines, you're trying to sever a path for the vines to go up the tree. So you cut both at the ground level and either at chest height or even a little higher if you can. so that additional vines that root system sends out next year will not be able to simply climb up the old dead vine back into the tree.
I got it.
In this case, yeah, the saw. Most homeowners, once again, will not have something that needs a saw, but so then you can see how there's not as much for the vines to climb up. If you have an area with a lot of vines, and maybe this tree behind you is a better example of this. This is a good example of why we suggest homeowners do this in the winter. Often, and why we suggest, I suggest wearing safety glasses, and I suggest wearing a hard hat. The safety glasses are mostly for thorns. The hard hat is for another problem, depending on how big your massive vine is and how bad it is. You have to remember, trees with a lot of vines on them are often unhealthy, which means that if you look up, sometimes you find branches that have died and fallen and gotten caught in the vines and are hanging. When you cut the vines, it's kind of like cutting ropes, and you don't want to cut something that's then going to fall down on you. So it's always worth it before you go and cut the vines on a tree to look up and see if there's some large hanging branch above your head ready to come down. In the winter, you can wear thick clothing that is a lot more resistant to the vines versus in August or July, you would just overheat. Basically, my recommendation is most of the species of vines that a homeowner could find on their property that are in larger size and not climbing up directly up the trunk of the tree with feelers like Virginia creeper, poison ivy, stuff like that. Those all have the potential to branch out of the canopy and strangle the tree. English ivy's a little different, but even that, I haven't really seen it kill trees. Poison ivy most people don't like anyway, but for the health of a tree itself, just cutting these climbing vines off both up top and down low helps a lot.
So what kind of vine is this one?
This was two species of vine climbing together. So you had the long bark sections are grapevine, and then the ones with this more general pattern are the Oriental bittersweet. Most of the vines on this property are those two species. I have to look official. I forgot a cap for the Lake Conservancy.